by that I don't mean South India or Sunnyvale, same thing. I grew up in Alabama. Yeah, same reaction I got there, just silence. And all the people staring at me. Feels very familiar. And then after Alabama, we moved to Georgia, which is, just Alabama 2.0. And my family, we had three big problems. We were, one, Hindu vegetarians. Two, we lived in the South. And three, we were hungry all the time. Because in the South, a vegetarian meal was just like grilled cheese and like some kind of like potato salad or macaroni salad. Like, it shouldn't even be salad because it had no vegetables. It was just mayonnaise and some carbohydrate. That's what it was. So this was, traumatic, I mean, yeah, I could talk about the racism or Klan or whatever, but the food, that's what was really traumatizing. One day, my dad was like, I want to take you to Atlanta, Chinatown. And now imagine Chinatown in, San Francisco, or, I don't know if you have Chinatown in Marin. I see one Chinese person here, or one Asian. Two. Oh, three. I like how they're so proud. They're like, no one ever gives us attention. Of course, you're Asian, you're in the library, that makes sense, okay? So we go to Chinatown, and it's not like any Chinatown that you have experienced. Town implies, some kind of, area. This was in the strip mall next to Buford Highway Flea Market. And China implies, Chinese stuff. There weren't enough Chinese people in Georgia, so they had a Japanese ornament store, a Vietnamese deli, and a Radio Shack. I don't know why there was a Radio Shack. They're probably like, well, they have electronics in China. Let's just put that in there. So we go to this Chinatown, and we walk in, and we see the sign that we've never seen before that says, vegetarian Asian cuisine. And my dad is elated. So we make a beeline for this food court vendor, and we get there, and my dad is so excited. He's like, oh, we are vegetarians too, and I love Asian food. My wife doesn't let me cook, and we have been married a long time, but she doesn't let, and I was like, you don't have to tell her everything. Let's just ease into it. So we go, and she fixes us each this plate of amazing food. It's so good. And we start eating it, and we're like, wow, we've never had food like this before. And she starts telling us that this food court was affiliated with some kind of a spiritual leader. And I wasn't freaked out at this point because, all sort of fringe religions have some weird dietary restrictions, like Hare Krishnas, Seventh-day Adventists, the Black Muslim Bakery in Oakland, anorexics, they all have weird, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, whatever. So I was like, okay, fine, that's fine, you're a spiritual leader. So she starts telling us about this. And then she says, if you like the food here, and I want to make sure that I'm not lapsing into like a stereotypical Asian accent, because she didn't have that accent. This was the South, so she had a typical East Asian accent, but with a Southern drawl. So it was kind of like, welcome to Chinatown, y'all. So it was very stressful. Okay, so we were listening to her voice, and it was very cool. And she told us about the spiritual leader. She said, if you like the food in the food court, you will love the homemade vegetarian food at the Holy House. And we just thought, okay, cool, Holy House. That was probably her best approximation for like Buddhist temple or something. And I wanted to consider this for a while, but my dad was so eager, and he's an immigrant from India, so this lady said the magic word, free, and he committed the entire family to go. He's like, we'll be there. So, thanks, okay. we go home, and the next morning my dad announces to my brother and my mom that we would be going to the Holy House for some spiritual food. And in most normal families, like, people would like, what do they believe in? Like, are our beliefs compatible, you know? But like, keep in mind, this was in Georgia, where like anyone who espoused any religious beliefs, they were burning crosses. Or, you know, they would come up to us and be like, what do y'all believe in? Y'all have way too many gods, you know. You need to believe in Jesus, or you're going straight to hell. And, you know, I was always like, what's hell, you know? Is it kind of like being a Hindu in Alabama? You know? So we were used to kind of people, like, you know, not believing in what we believed in, so we're like, let's give it a shot. So we skip breakfast and lunch, and we start driving, and we don't go directly to the Holy House because we don't get directions. We first have to stop at not the Holy House, but a Waffle House. And if you're unfamiliar with a Waffle House, you're probably like, yeah, they make waffles, okay? But it's not like Marin waffles. Like, there's no spelt, or only in Marin is spelt a punchline, okay? So there's no like agave nectar or anything like that. Like, this was like white flour and lard and you know, highest fructose corn syrup, and a bucket of gravy. Like, it was just disgusting. And like, you know, waitresses like chain smoking in there, and like, you just get, you know, all cancers just from walking there. And so we have to go to this Waffle House, and this is when my spidey sense kind of goes up, because the food court lady meets us at the Waffle House, and she's like, leave your car here, we will be going in my car, then meeting a van, and the van will take us to the Holy House. And at that point I'm thinking, like, is eating vegetarian food like so underground that we like need this, like, you know, like underground railway of like eating? Like, is there like a Harriet Tubman that's like, follow the North Star for some tofu, everyone, you know? So you know, so it was freaky. So we finally get to this place, and let me tell you, there's no like temple spires. It's not like Bhutan or like, you know, wherever, you know, that Josh went to for his Buddhist, you know, revival. It was not like that at all. This was not a holy house. This was a townhouse. And they had like linoleum floors and stuff. And so we get there, and my dad turns to my mom and, you know, my brother and I, and he goes, in Tamil, which is the language we speak at home, he goes, "Idu yaroda veedu pola irukku," which means, I think this is just some dude's house. And my mom turns to my dad and she's like, "Adu pattila anak kavala illa, anak pasikirudhu," which means, I don't give a shit, I'm hungry. So the door opens and we walk onto the linoleum floor, and there's this group of Asian people with Southern accents that meet us, that take us into the attic, or as they might call it, their steeple. You know, we go up, and at this point it feels like a hostage situation. There are so many other people that they've collected from this Chinatown strip mall. There's even like these two like nerdy looking white guys who either got apprehended at the Radio Shack, or maybe they had an Asian fetish or something. So they were here, and my brother and I just look at each other because the summer before we had just read Diary of Anne Frank. We're like, we know what happens in the attic, okay? So I like that this is a literary crowd. So we're scared. We're really scared at this point. And this is where I need your help as an audience, because we go there, and one of their members gives us a mantra. And this is exactly, I'm not editing this at all. This is what they say. They said, we're giving you this mantra because this mantra can save your life in a dangerous situation, like if your airplane, is, flying through the air and like you have to, it's crashing or something. And I'm like, oh, they don't have parachutes in their religion? And they're like, but here's the weird part. They go, don't teach this mantra to the handicapped or the retarded. And I'm like, clearly compassion is not part of this religious practice. So this is the mantra. Let me teach it to you. Maybe it'll save your life. So first, this is not the hokey pokey. Put your left hand out, and then put your right hand on top of it, because left hand is dirty, right hand is clean. And as you're saying the mantra, don't open your eyes because the lightness will distract you, but don't close your eyes because the darkness will pull you in. So you have to close your eyes between 1/4 and 3/4, and then I'll tell you what the mantra is. It's Utai Foot Milet, but don't say it yet. You have to put the tongue on the roof of your mouth because the tongue anchors your soul, and then you have to all say it together for it to work. So, so we sounded like a bunch of retardeds, just like that. And so we said that, and then we're like, okay, and then we look at, my brother and I are looking at each other like with these Home Alone faces, and suddenly this chime rings, and it goes ding, and this lady goes, dinner is served. So we go downstairs, and this is we've been to Sizzler before, but this is the best buffet we'd ever seen. Like there's, chawan mushi, bok choy with shiitake mushrooms, there's, imitation meats, there's so many dishes that we can eat all of them. Red bean bun, lotus paste cakes, like we're just eating and eating and eating. And, at one point this lady's like, saw my mom with the Tupperware. She's like, you must only eat here. And even the religious buffet had a strict rule. So we're eating and eating and eating, and it's so good. And you have to understand, we'd been indoctrinated for like 45 minutes, and this was a 2-hour ride, and we were so hungry at this point. We just ate until we were just in food coma. And as soon as we relaxed, a crowd had sort of formed around my parents. And it's kind of like that scene in the movie where like everything goes dark and you pass out, like everyone's getting closer and closer. And they said, in the holy house, everyone makes a contribution. Either you help out or you contribute. Very subtle. And we saw my dad do something that he, rarely does, which is, pull out his wallet. And this amazed us. He freely handed over the cash that was in his wallet. And my mom just knew something was wrong. So she's like, let's go. So we get back to the Waffle House and we drive home. And it's very quiet on the ride home. And I think that my dad knew what he had done, and he didn't want to set a bad example for us kids. So in Tamil, he's saying to himself, and then he looks at us, he goes, we have to go back. I'm like, what? So what my dad had done in Tamil was he was calculating numbers. He had calculated the cost of an average buffet in the Atlanta metropolitan area, multiplied it times 4, divided it by the amount of cash he handed over, and so we would end up going to this place for the next 3 months. And I wish I had something to tell you that would make you feel better, but all I have to tell you is this is the story of how the Lakshminarayanan family joined a cult for the entire summer for the free vegetarian food because my dad is cheap. Thank you so much.